We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
Remember, all offseason, we've been talking about maybe during spring training we can get Carlos Correa an extension. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't sound like they've been talking. Does that mean that it can't happen? No. Remember, the Justin Verlander wasn't until the last, I believe it was the last week of spring training in 2019. So there's still a chance, but it's kind of disheartening that they haven't even talked about that. And what does Carlos Correa have to say about this? And what's the state of the Astros bullpen? And what about all the who has bulked up over the offseason? There's so much for us to talk about on this episode of the Locked On Astros podcast. And don't forget, you can get Locked On Astros on the podcast app Himalaya, as well as Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And when you get in your car, tell your smart device played podcast, Locked On Astros. So, Brett, I know I did a little teaser video earlier today, but were you surprised at all when Carlos Correa said that neither he or his agent have heard from the Astros since, what was it, February 6th, after they agreed to avoid arbitration about the when they agreed to $11.7 million contract? And he says that if the Astros want to extend me, I would like it done before the season starts.
Yes, I was surprised to hear that, and it's kind of driving me to drink a little bit. And I want y'all to go to belchingbeaver.com and check out Belching Beaver. They have this great India Pale Ale. It's called Here Comes Mango. This is delicious and fruity IPA without the punch to the face. The Amarillo and Simcoe hops complement natural mango flavor for a juicy, tropical, well-balanced beer. It's served year-round. It won the International Beer Competition Award in 2017. It got the gold medal. So there's all kinds of drinks they have for any palate. They have milk stouts. They have honey blondes. They have peanut butter milk stout nitro. I mean, just the sky's the limit. They started in 2012. They're in Texas now, guys. So go to belchingbeaver.bev and find where you can pick up Belching Beaver. It is here for us to have a damn good time. So with that being said, the Carlos Correa news to me was a little disheartening, to be honest, because I know you and I both have been sounding the horn that we need to sign him, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to sign him. And Carlos Correa, to me, is signaling to the Astros. I'm kind of like that movie where
Show Me the Money.
No, where Bruce Almighty became God, and he, like, right before he gets the powers from Morgan Freeman, he's like, God, show me a sign. And he ends up behind this truck with all these signs, and he's like, get out of my way. And it's almost like Carlos Correa, like the Astros are like, show me a sign. And Carlos Correa is like, I want to be an Astro the rest of my life. But here's the thing. This guy wants to be an Astro, Eric. We all know that he could go somewhere else. He could don another uniform like Springer or like any of these other players that played on this team, and he could avoid the scrutiny. He could get out from under the umbrella of the 2017 scandal, the most horrendous sin that's ever been committed by any man on the face of the planet, right? But he wants to be here. He's expressing the desire to be here. Why do you think they're holding back on this? I mean, obviously it's not just cut and dry, we're going to sign you, it's good. There's a lot of details, but they haven't even spoken to his agent. That's a problem.
Yeah, and Carlos Correa is not concerned about this. I don't think he's overly concerned, and I know we've talked about it on the podcast. He is not going to be the only fish in the sea next year, because you're going to have a lot. You're going to have Francisco Lindor. You're going to have a lot of shortstops coming to be free agents. And he said, look, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to be one of the youngest guys out there. If I have to go be a third baseman, I'll go be a third baseman. I'm willing to stay here. I'm willing to sign the right deal to stay with the Houston Astros. but I'm not gonna sell myself short. I'm not gonna basically take a hometown discount to come back to Houston, but I do want to stay here. But I know what I'm worth, and I know exactly how much that the Astros should pay me. But just 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 come pay me. And he says
So
he doesn't want to be distracted during the regular season. And I know we've seen extensions during the regular seasons, but that's very unlikely. And like I said in that little teaser earlier, once the Astros big stars get to free agencies, when's the last time you remember one of these guys actually coming back to Houston?
yeah, true. And so what I'm wondering is if the devil is in the details here. If the devil is in the details of the Astros, I mean, they settled with him. They met in the middle, but they didn't even. I mean, they didn't even. They were 3 or 4 million away from what he wanted in his 1 year. So you're wondering if they're that far apart for 1 year. How far apart are they for this deal? Is it a number of years that he's wanted and expressed that they don't want to go after? Is it the amount of money per year, the AAV that he's asking for? Because you could give this guy an 8 year deal, 205 million, pay him about 25, 26 million. But I think you got to pay him before you have Lindor and not before you have all these other free agents. I believe Lindor, isn't he with the Mets for just 1 season?
Yeah.
And then he's a free agent. So him, Javi Baez, all these other guys come up
I want
as
to say
free
Trevor
agents.
Story is as well,
Trevor
and
Story, I
there's a
believe.
whole bunch of shortstops out there.
Yeah.
And but Carlos Correa is going about, and he's excited about the season. And you would be like, "Oh, George Springer's is gone," but he's like, "No, no, I've never been so excited to show up to spring training, and I feel something special in this clubhouse. The way everyone showed up today told me a lot about." Who put in the work to make sure they're ready to compete and win another championship. And him and Jose Altuve were they're like, man, we feel ready to play this year. And even Dusty Baker was like, man, y'all guys came in shape and ready to play this year. So this team didn't come in. They're like not like, oh well, we had a losing record last year. Oh well, we lost our leadoff guy. We lost our heart of our team. This team's like, wow, we're not going to just come in and say, woe is us. We're going to come in and be like, you know what? We're still a good team. Let's go out and win another World Series.
Yeah, it's like Reed Ryan so aptly said last night. I believe wholeheartedly that the AL West is the Astros to win. I think it's also theirs to lose. Now the Oakland A's, I think, have retooled somewhat, and so they're going to be the pesky foe that they always are during the regular season. You always wonder what the Angels will do, but it's interesting. Alex Bregman said, he said, smell the fresh cut grass. Just being back at spring training, everything just felt right. Um, and he also said last year, I didn't even feel like it happened. Like, I didn't even feel like we played a season last year. And this is a team that was 1 game away from the playoffs. If you think that
World
they're looking
Series,
at the, oh, what I say, oh, I'm sorry, one,
playoffs.
that's what I meant. Okay, 1 game away from the World Series. Okay, but if you think this team's looking back, licking their wounds, saying that we feel sorry, that's not this team. This team is in the hunt, and despite losing Springer, despite not having Justin Verlander, despite having some questions as far as depth when it goes to starting pitching, um, not having those extra auxiliary guys to lean on, they added guys like Jason Castro. They got back Michael Brantley. They did come in bulked up. They look amazing. They look like they took care of their bodies. And that is first and foremost, probably that's the most important thing because all these players are a year older this year.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into kind of where I wanted to go. And Kyle Tucker, we all remember him as being this little skinny, little scrawny little guy, and he came in looking thick. and in the good pick. I know Alex Bregman came in looking like he can wrestle anybody, but Kyle Tucker, he looks like he put on some muscle, and he looked like he ate a few Built Bars in a good way. And I think that he looks like he can probably hit some more homers. He can put some more um, uh, power. And sorry if there's a little ambulance coming out there, but Built Bar is a great way to just eat healthy. And I'm gonna go and try a new something I just got in the mail today, and it is a peanut butter crispy. And so it's right here. So let me go and open it. I kind of did a preview open. So what it is, it wrapped in a little bit chocolate here, and so this is the first time I've tried it. So let's go and try it.
Okay, while he's doing that, it's wrapped in 100% chocolate. Don't undersell the chocolate. You just said a little bit. It is wrapped in 100% chocolate, folks. It's a candy bar. So Eric, don't talk with your mouth full. Okay, you got to tell me, is that good? Because they came to my house too, and I loved them. What do you think?
Okay.
He's okay. So perhaps this is their best bar yet. They should, here's the thing. Not only do we have this crispy, we also have like so many other flavors, dark chocolate, coconut, with like real brownie chunks. Okay. 150 calories, 15 grams of protein, 7 grams of sugar. Tell me, Eric, what do you think?
It's really good. It's a really crispy. It's really chunky. It's really, really just awesome. As when I'm not when I don't have to do podcasts, I'll go eat some more of it. But it's really good. It's got great, good mixture of peanut butter and crispiness. But it's got only 150 calories, 15 grams of protein, only 7 grams of sugar, and this is a limited time flavor. So get it together, and it'll be gone. So, Brett, where can they go to get this, and what's the promo code they can use?
Well, basically, they use the promo code locked on and they get 20% off their first order. And what's great is you get 20% off that box. Now, when you get that box, you'll get another coupon in when you get the box and open it up for another 20% off. And the savings keep building. You can also get like they're called built bucks or built points. My wife, she kind of deals with that stuff, and we accumulate them. Like I could literally go to my refrigerator door and open it and show you that it is constantly full of built bars. That's how we roll in the H-Town Wheelhouse household.
All
So
righty, that's awesome. I'll have to finish this after show, but it's a little bit too chewy at the moment. But speaking of after the show, let's say that I know we had a little bit of freeze, but let's say you can't go to the auto parts store. What if you need a part for your car? Where can you go?
I'm glad you said that because with the increasing number of makes and models that are out there, it's now impossible to stock all the parts you need at the traditional chain store. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the counterman orders the parts on his computer, choosing the only brand that they have in their warehouse, and then says, "Oh, you know what? That's going to be 3 or 4 weeks." Go to rockauto.com. They are far different from any chain store. They don't treat you differently or give you a different price point if you're an everyday guy and you're not a professional mechanic. You will get a family business feel. They have all the parts you need. They've been supplying it for 20 years. Go to rockauto.com to shop for auto and body parts from hundreds of manufacturers. Best of all, the prices at rockauto.com are always reliably low, and the same for everybody. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right locked on in there. How did you hear about us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
All right, guys. So if y'all did not catch yesterday's episode with Reed Ryan, I think that was a really good episode, and there was a lot of nostalgia. And we did talk a little bit about the kind of the winning the World Series and everything. We didn't get into any of the bad things that happened, but there's a lot of good stuff that we really talked about, and it was just really good to take a walk down memory lane. But the reason why I bring this up is Jason Castro. We're kind of bringing back down some more memory lane. But I over the weekend there was a comment by James Click, and he mentioned that he reached out to Martin Maldonado over the offseason when they signed Jason Castro, and they said, "Look, Martin, you are the starting catcher. Jason Castro is not the starting catcher. You are the starting catcher." But Martin Maldonado said, "That's fine. That's fine. This is another catcher. This is a guy who has a lot of veteran leadership. This is a good. This is going to be a dynamic duel, and all the pitchers are loving this combination." And then you have Garrett Stubbs who's saying, "Put me in, coach. I'll play second base. I'll play shortstop. Put me in. I'll play anywhere." And so it's good to see all these catchers wanting to play. And Garrett Stubbs, is he guaranteed a role on this team or not really?
Well, he is going to, he's their third catcher option, but I believe that they are working him in multiple positions, and he's been doing that for a while now because I think they see a lot of potential in him. Even though he's a smaller player, he doesn't, intimidate with size and all that stuff, but he is one of those guys that's going to scrap, that's going to go, and he's going to put in an honest day's work. I believe he has the ability to make this roster as someone that comes off the bench. But I don't know what kind of role he'll play. I don't know if it will take an injury for him to take a more dynamic part of the offense or a dynamic part of the lineup where he comes in more regularly. But he's going to
I
be.
don't see him as an everyday second baseman or
No,
anything like that.
no,
But yeah.
no, I'm not saying that. You go ahead, Eric.
But yeah, he is going to be working with Joe Espada a little bit to kind of get some reps at second base during spring training, and he's going to be able to kind of work with Jose Altuve, but he's definitely going to get some options around the field, and that's all you can do during spring training. And I'm not saying he's guaranteed a job, but you are going to have 26 players, and so I'm pretty sure he is going to make the roster, especially as that third catcher. There's not really anybody else ready. Corey Lee is probably a year or two, a year and a
Yeah.
half away, especially because he didn't play a lot of catcher. And so he's going to take a while to kind of get used to the professional catching. So one person who's going to get a lot of playing time this year is Miles Straw. And he's got some big shoes to fill in and for George Springer. And he's probably not going to fill in the shoes exactly like George Springer is, but the main thing that he's got to focus on is just getting on base. If he gets on base, he can steal a lot of bases, and he's not trying to fill in for Springer's
No,
power. Yeah, go ahead.
no, he is a center fielder. He's there for his speed. Like you said, he's there to get on base. Nobody is replacing George Springer unless you're bringing in a George Springer caliber player. That's not his role. His role is to get at bats every single day and prove his worth at the big league level. And that's what they're hoping he does. I know that they want Pedro Leon up, but I really think that they're looking at him for 2022 more than this year.
Yeah.
And so it's Miles Straw's time to shine. It's his opportunity. And everything I've heard from him, I have full confidence in him getting out there because you cannot get into a routine playing every fourth day. I mean, you're not a starting pitcher, you're a fielder. And there's no way you can learn to track down fly balls and do those things successfully if you're not doing it consistently. Miles Straw, again, is my guy to have a breakout year, Eric.
Yeah, and all he has to do, honestly, is bat 260. If he bats 260, he did his job. If he
Even if he
bats,
bats 250, even if he bats
yeah,
250, I mean,
and because
I
that'll
mean,
give him 40 to 50 stolen bases, he'll score 80 runs. That's all he needs to do. And like he says, grind some at bats. And let's kind of switch to pitching a little bit. And
okay.
I'm not going to jinx anything, but we may have a special guest tomorrow. I'm not going to jinx anything, but we'll kind of pimp that later. But how about Jose Urquidy? coming out and saying, you know what?
Mm,
I want to pitch 200 innings. Last year,
yes.
he said how many innings did he pitch last year? He pitched 29 innings.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah. In
he wants to pitch.
2019, he pitched combined 154 innings between the minors and the big leagues. So that is a big leap, but I think he can. I think he can do it. It's just he had some injuries last year and it was a shortened season. So I think he has the makeup to do it. He has the ability to do it. So I think he can.
So he said basically, I focused a lot on my physical side this past off season, losing a little bit of weight. The native of Mexico also mentioned I was in the gym a lot and focused on gaining muscle and trying to be healthy. I was active on social media with the gym activity, and if you follow him on Instagram, he was on there a lot. Reaching 200 innings would be a massive workload. Like you mentioned, he's only gone 154, but that's what you want. You want your starting pitchers, you want your young pitchers to have that bulldog mentality. Um, that kind of reminds me of the mentality that I felt like Roy Oswalt had when he was on the mound. Roy Oswalt was a bulldog. Roy Oswalt was kind of a fighter. I mean, he would go out there and he would just absolutely battle. And that's the kind of guy that I think Jose Urquidy's trying to become, in his makeup. Now he's probably not thinking, "Well, I want to be the next Roy Oswalt," but he reminds me of that. He's not super tall, but he's
Right.
he's got that workhorse mentality.
Yeah, I know we don't have a lot of time left in this podcast, but I do want to kind of address the bullpen a little bit. And so there's been some quotes that came out this weekend, and I did something and it messed my spreadsheet up. But I love this quote from Blake Taylor. He said, "Where, gee whiz, where do the Astros find these guys?" Because if you look at this combination of the Astros bullpen, you have Steve Cishek by the seashore, and then you have Joe Smith coming back, and then you have um, Pedro Baez, and then you have just
Stanek.
all Stanek, and then you have all these different look relievers with all these different looks. And this is what James Click had to say. No, this is actually what Strom said. This is what the Rays have done so well in the past. And having guys with different weapons makes it very enjoyable to map them out against different people. And so what he was referring to is possibly going away from a maybe a solo closer, or maybe pointing to maybe having a bullpen by committee, a closer by committee, something like that. And just let's say you have a certain uh, lineup coming up and you want them to face a certain type of thing. So Presley says that he thinks he's kind of fixed his cut from his movement from the last season, and he wasn't really healthy. So he is a
Yes.
favorite to get the most saves, but that does not mean he may not be needed in the eighth inning. You may see Stanek or Cishek by the seashore come in.
You love saying that. You kill me with that. So hey, I do want to mention this. Brent Strom mentioned these guys that are helping him out. Bill Murphy and Joshua Miller. He said these guys came in and he said they're allowing he's allowing them to do a lot more of the analytical things. And so they've got the staff now, and I think to bolster what Brent Strom offers to them. And this core group of players, this young, I think, tenacious bullpen is going to be scary for opposing offenses. I think they're going to do a very good job. I mean, Andre Scrub. We need Andre Scrub to grow his hair long. Joe Smith is trying to. Lance McCullers has got the long hair. We got Stanek. I mean, Presley, I think we need to try to get Presley to grow his hair out, but I don't think he can. But I was really impressed with what Presley said about his health. And, Eric, I'm actually starting to turn a little bit in favor of not being so worried about Presley. He talked about last year, and he talked about the shortened season. He talked about all the distractions, and he talked about how everything's fresh and new this year. And so when you hear a pitcher preaching confidence like that, you definitely want to give him the ball if it's his turn to do it. And
Yeah.
so I think the Astros have a lot going for them in the bullpen.
Yeah, he also told you to jump off the bridge, so you might want to go and do that as well. So,
He did.
anyway, yeah, no, I'll tell you
Oh,
more later. But
okay.
guys, that's all we got for this episode of Locked On Astros podcast, and hopefully we'll have a special interview tomorrow. And guys, February is Black History Month, and the Locked On Podcast Network is honoring the challenges and success of Black men and women in sports, and a new series called The Lock On Presents More Than Just the Game. Right now, you can hear Candace Cooper of the Locked On Tar Heels and Erica Ayala, Ayala of the Locked On Women's Basketball discuss the opportunities and challenges that come with being a Black woman in sports. Subscribe to Locked On Presents podcast feed and radio.com app or wherever you get your podcast. And we will see you tomorrow on the Locked On Astros podcast.